Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are in the world today for a very special conversation about how angel investment, and more specifically, angel investment networks, are game-changing across Africa's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Angel networks play an important role in startup ecosystems by providing early-stage funding to startups and connecting startups with investors who are willing to invest capital that may be difficult to obtain through traditional channels. In Africa, angel investment networks are playing a pivotal role in the continent's ecosystem, which has, in just 8 or so years, grown into a multi-billion-dollar arena, producing 7 unicorns and becoming a leading region in terms of fintech innovation. As more and more disruptive startups emerge, angel investment networks have become vital in addressing the gap between the initial idea stage and the subsequent growth phase of ventures, while also aiding enterprises in realizing their goals by providing mentorship and collaboration opportunities. Considering the immense importance of this area for the future of Africa's business landscape, I'm absolutely delighted to have the honor to be joined by a personality directly involved in running these investment networks and doing the hard work of making budding African entrepreneurs realize their dreams. So Ms. Fadila Tumbo is the CAO of African Business Angel Networks, ABAN, a Pan-African non-profit association founded to support the development of early-stage investor networks. Most interestingly, ABAN began as a consortium of independent investor networks, including those from Commonwealth nations, incorporating Cameroon Angel Network and the Ghana Angel Network. I was also delightfully surprised to find out that Fadila has worked as the Director of Business and Innovation across Africa for the Royal Commonwealth Society, one of the important organizations in the Commonwealth, where she steered and led the creation of innovative projects that aligned to the values of the Commonwealth. So the stars have aligned, and I'm so happy that the Commonwealth Chamber has the chance to speak about synergies between Fadila's ABAN endeavors and the mission of the Commonwealth to galvanize the business landscape of Africa member nations. So thank you so much for being here with us today. Fadila, it's very good to see you.
Thank you very much, Julia, for this wonderful introduction. And I would like to, first of all, say thank you to the Commonwealth Chamber of Commerce for affording me this opportunity to exchange with you all today. So for this brief presentation that I'm about to share with you, I would like to be talking about catalyzing angel investment strategy for Commonwealth Africa startup. And I will particularly focus on what ABAN has achieved so far and what we're working towards. For those of you who don't know about ABAN, I would like to tell you that ABAN is a Pan-African network organization for angel investors. And it was established in 2015 to actually drive angel investment on the continent, with only 6 angel networks in Africa. And today we count over 64 angel networks in more than 35 African countries and the diaspora. So essentially, these angel networks are made of angel investors that have come together, who have also realized the potential of the African continent to take risks on startups that are emerging across the continent. And these are individuals actually coming together. But of course, over time, we have realized those individuals who started, who realized the potential of the African continent, pretty much identify the need to unlock local capital and to become a supporting force for those founders that were creating innovative ideas on the continent. So apart from capital that these angels network and angel investors are providing on the continent, they're also supporting those founders with networking and mentorship, which are the key elements in making any new idea flourish in the future. So the map that you see just on your right shows a diversity of our angel network across the continent. And you rightly say earlier on, Julia, that the Commonwealth countries on the continent are playing a very key part. You see Nigeria, Cameroon, And Ghana, just to give an example, and these countries who are also members of the Commonwealth are also driving the emergence and the contribution of angel investors on the continent. So I was saying earlier that our key focus areas at ABAN is number one, making sure that angel investing is easier for all the aspiring and existing individuals on the continent that are willing and able to support founders. And we want to do this by making sure that we are actually lowering barriers of entries and supporting more investors in becoming actively involved in that path to building entrepreneurs. The second thing is about capacity building. And you know very well that angel investing is very nascent on this continent. And over the years, the need to educate, sharing knowledge about how to do angel investing in a professional manner has been extremely important. And today we're able to see the impact that has produced on the continent. So capacity building is extremely important because as long as we're doing angel investing, we have to do it in a very consistent and professional manner. And of course, awareness raising is also very important. It being very new on the continent, angel investing, people need to know about the good that it can produce, the impact that it must have on the society, and especially through the funders. And advocacy also is very important because we need policy. We need to make sure that policies are very much aligned and create a conducive environment for these individuals that are willing and able to invest in those startups. Collaboration, of course, is very important for us. You know, throughout the years, we have collaborated with many accelerators and other stakeholders involved in the startup ecosystem in order to build a much more robust and driving kind of environment for these founders that are transforming the lives of many Africans on the continent. And of course, creating new angel groups and network has also been very important. You know, just moving from 6 angel network in 2015 to 64 today has been a tremendous improvement and a tremendous growth. But over time, we want to continue actually growing that figure to over 200 networks across the continent. That will allow us and continue supporting these angels will also allow us to continuing impacting the African continent. Now, in terms of our impact to date, ABAN has trained over 5,000 angel investors from Africa and the diaspora. And we make sure that there's always a 50% split. So women are very important in this movement. In fact, they are playing a very crucial role in sustaining angel network and also driving the growth in membership and investment that have been made in women-owned businesses across the continent. And we have about 80% of our angel trained that are actively accessing deals and also investing in African startups. And so far, for the past 3 years, we have established 4 different thematic networks, which essentially are new networks that are thematic focused. And these include digital trade, climate smart agriculture, clean technology, and smart city investor network. This specific network are groups of individuals that are very keen and very experienced in these various sectors that come together to invest together in startups that are focused in these sectors that I've just mentioned to you. And ABAN continues to engage with its members. And today, out of from the 64 that I presented earlier, we have about 68 also 68 of this network that we're engaging and constantly discussing with them, identifying their need, making sure that they are rightly equipped in order to continue investing on the continent. And you know very well that last year, the entire continent was able to attract a $5 billion investment that was disclosed, out of which $400 million was ABAN angel investors' contribution. So this is actually a very significant figure. given that in 2015, we only had 150 million that were contributed from angel investor on the continent and the diaspora into African startup. So taking it to 400 million is a big achievement for us that we're very proud. And I would like to take this opportunity for all the angels listening to us today that I would like to tell you that you are doing a great job on the continent and we value your contribution. We talk a lot about angel investing, and to bring it to life, I would like to share a case study with you, which is the Lagos Angel Network. So a Lagos Angel Network was created in 2011. They're pretty much one of the first angel network on the continent, and it was able to lay down the foundation of how angels investment should work in Nigeria. And there was a poem framework that was developed by Tommy Davis to actually help angels evaluate startup for investment. And since its creation, Lagos Angel Network have achieved a number of successful exits, and they have over 70 member angels with an active portfolio to date. And you can go ahead and check it out, check them out through their website. But I would like to deep dive a little bit on what it looks like to be an angel investor, an individual angel investor, specifically how your portfolio looks like. So you'll see on the other slide, I took an example of Tommy Davis, who's a member of Lagos Angel Networks. And you'll see that on his portfolio, he has invested in 29 ventures, approximately. Based on his investment, there's about 562 jobs created since 2021. And today, this portfolio has a revenue of a little bit over 8 million generated on a yearly basis, and the 30% women founders out of those 39 ventures investment. And we have about, out of the 562 jobs created, 36% women employed. And you'll see that on the chart just below, the table just below, you have an idea on the companies that he has invested into and the initial value of these companies, and then the current value of these companies. And you might not be able to see his exposure, but this is what an angel investor looks like as an individual. And the kind of things that they do, invest, the kind of company that they invest into, and the hope that these companies will be able to exit one day and they will be able to make money. But nevertheless, it's very important for me to highlight the fact that angel investors, what that makes them different from other investors is that these individuals have the passion and the willingness to pretty much support the next generations of entrepreneurs on the continent. And that's what they're doing. Because not only money matters, but the fact that they're able to devote the time and share the network in making sure that these founders succeed is also very important. The second case that I would like to share with you is Rising Tide, also based in Lagos, Nigeria. It is the first woman-led business angel network in West Africa. They do have a diversified portfolio of 24 startup companies with value-added initiative that they do carry out on a monthly basis. And they have over 75 member angels, and today they're expanding their operation into South Africa. And this is one of the great examples of women leading angels investment movement and making sure that they're able to pull other women and support women founders on the continent. And on your right, you have Wahebo Ventures, based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. It's one of the newest angel network that has been created. It was only created last year in 2022 and has raised 1x capital internationally through Catalytic Africa and Digital Trade, has over 50 members, and has hosted about 12 mentorship sessions. And first investment with members investing a total of $100,000. So, and apart from that, Wahebo also partner with other stakeholders that are pretty much geared towards supporting the Tanzanian startup ecosystem. So these are just examples of angel networks that have been created on the continent, that have emerged on the continent, that are contributing to the growth of the startup ecosystem across the continent. One thing that I want to share with you is that as ABAN, we have always, one of our key objectives has always been to drive angel investing on the continent. And one way through which we have done so is by developing and implementing what we call Catalytic Africa. So essentially, Catalytic Africa is a cross-border stakeholder solution in conjunction with AfriLab that raises a fund, whether it be grant, equity, and debt from various LPs, and add to a pool. And this pool now serves as a matching fund to encourage investment in viable startup on the continent. And to date, we have been able to onboard on this platform over 515 startup. We have 677 innovation hub, and we have about 68 plus angel network and 54 countries cover on the continent. And more importantly, we have been able to deploy in total approximately $1.6 million. So essentially, Catalytic Africa is a product that has been structured to unlock capital from a, let's say, an ecosystem approach to unlocking local capital in order to further support the founders that are emerging on the continent. So essentially, this slide gives you a little bit an idea of what is happening as far as Catalytic Africa is concerned and its impact so far on the continent. So far, we have deployed approximately more than 800,000 euros as qualifying matching grant. And because of that capital that has been made available, I would like to highlight the fact that over $1 million has been invested by local angels, investors in these startups. And it's because of that investment that we're able to deploy that $800,000+ as qualifying matching grant. And we're talking about approximately 16 startups from 12 African countries, and you will be able to see the flags there. And you can also notice that Commonwealth countries are very much present and leading this movement. And you see that you have approximately 119 angel investors from 17 ABAN's network involved in actually putting together that 1 million plus euros available to startup on the continent. And the last thing I would like to highlight, one of the last things that I would like to highlight is that in our goal to continuing developing and creating a way to support angel network and also progressing in our work at ABAN, we have been able to create new thematic angel network. As I mentioned earlier, these thematic networks are 4 cross-border angel networks that are focused on specific sectors. And these pictures that you see there are individuals who have been active investors on the continent that are now have moved from sector agnostic to sector specific. And you'll see that on the digital trade, we have a champion called Lipton Peters, who is a founder, but also has experienced a successful exit and have now become an angel investors. And for climate smart agriculture, you will see Hannah Subai, who has been one of the driving force towards establishing one of the first angel network in the DRC. And below you have Yemi Carey, who is championing the Clean Technology Investor Network. She's very passionate about this, has existing investment in that sector, and is also supporting other investors that are joining this group. And you have finally Smart Cities Investor Network that is constantly led by Serge Tamak, who is one of the active investors in that area, but also very active and vocal about policies that should be considered in order to facilitate the growth of smart cities ventures on the continent. And finally, I would like to end by saying that angel investing has grown on the continent, and we have been able to see the impact that it has created so far through various avenues. And in our effort to continuing evangelizing the good of angel investing, we had created Africa Early Stage Investor Summit 10 years ago. And this year we will be celebrating our 10th anniversary. For this year event, it would be held in Cape Town, South Africa, from November 30th to December 1st. Essentially, this is a platform where all early stage investors on the continent and the diaspora come together to discuss about opportunities, challenges, but most importantly, sharing knowledge in order for all the existing and aspiring angels to continuing doing what they're doing, which is investing in founders on the continent, supporting them with capital, mentorship, and networking. So this is the time for us to meet and discuss these opportunities and these challenges. And I can't wait to see you join us in South Africa this year. Well, leading on to this MEN summit that it will be held in Cape Town, we have local angel network meetup. And this year it would be held in 40 African cities and other cities out of the continent. So for those global cities, it will be held on the 7th of September. And for local African cities, it would be held on the 5th of October. So please follow us to get more detail where you are, whatever you are in this world. Note that you can join a local investor meetup where you will meet like-minded people and discuss about angel investing, and perhaps even share what you already know about angel investing, and perhaps even create a collaboration that would increase the pool of capital available for founders on the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fadila. That is so interesting, and what a great introduction to ABAN. And I do hope that I can come to Cape Town at the end of November. That sounds fantastic. It's amazing how much you've achieved since 2015, and it's very exciting. And I think the case studies really brought this to life. So thank you. And can I just kick off asking you a bit about yourself, Fadila? I mean, you've obviously had an extremely interesting journey, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to know more about your background and how you got to where you are now and what you're doing.
Oh, thank you very much, Julia. Well, one thing for sure is that I'm very passionate about fostering entrepreneurship on the continent. And throughout my career, I've always been deeply involved in the African entrepreneurship and its evolution. So I started it off by managing a trade finance fund for SMEs, and gradually moved into startup field, where I've witnessed firsthand the potential of Angel Investment Network to act as a catalyst for change. And I must also highlight that being exposed to the Commonwealth Royal Society was also a great opportunity for me to, first of all, understand what kind of innovation were being built in different African Commonwealth countries, and what kind of support are needed in order for them to accelerate growth and, most importantly, impact. So I've also had a great opportunity to be trained in the UK and the US as well. So yeah. I've benefited from both worlds, which was very tremendous for me, because I pretty much learned some of the differences that exist in the world and why those differences do exist. And I was able to kind of create a framework for myself that essentially led to the path that I took in supporting startup on the continent and making sure that also women are deeply involved into that journey.
Thanks. So you went to Georgetown and you went to LSE, right? So you've got been to amazing universities and had that very interesting perspective. Whereabouts did you grow up before you went to Georgetown, Fadila?
Well, I spent some of my time in Cameroon, but I also spent some time in Birmingham, and later on, I spent a little bit of time in Wales. So I think that's when I spent one of the two most beautiful years of my life. I attended the United World College of the Atlantic, which is a boarding school that pretty much bring together students from all different backgrounds that would be able to live, study together in order for them to later on create, innovate, and contribute to the world, you know, especially with what is happening in the world. At the end of the day, what really matters is understanding our purpose in life and making sure that our purpose is always geared towards supporting others to grow.
Yes, yeah. No, I've come across United World College. It's an amazing place, I think, to go to school, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Do you spend much time in Cameroon now, or how often do you get back there?
So I pretty much spend a lot of time traveling on the continent. As you know very well, ABAN is a Mauritius-based company.
Yeah.
So, and we like proximity a lot. So what we try to do is to make sure that we are connected with all our angel network across the continent. So I go to Rwanda, Ghana, spend a lot of time in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, and we go around. So I travel a lot. I make sure that I am physically close to the work that the angels are doing, and bringing also our support to those angel networks.
Wow, that must be so inspiring for them. Must be pretty exhausting, but energizing as well for you, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you like what you do, and when you're so convinced on the impact that it can create on the continent, you do it in a very deliberate manner.
Yes.
Of course, like making sure that you're also taking care of your health, you know, because that's important. You have to be very healthy to be able to do this. So
totally. Yeah, no junk food,
right? From time to time. Yeah.
So how did you actually begin with ABAN and Catalytic Africa? What's the detailed story about that?
Yeah, well, very interesting enough, like I say, I've always been involved in that entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Yeah.
And ABAN, I've known ABAN since its creation, but I was observing ABAN from very far, because ABAN was focusing on early stage investment. Meanwhile, I was focusing on SMEs, and which was trade finance, specifically trade finance with larger ticket size, making sure that you have a guarantee, which is a different fund structure, different financing structure than angel investing.
Yeah, it's not the equity structure you need for angel. Yeah,
exactly. As I continued to kind of observe the work that ABAN was actually doing on the continent, it was very fascinating for me in seeing the impact, especially after we are seeing so many, a number of exits on the continent. People start waking up and say, wow, what is happening? Who are these companies? Take the example of Flutterwave, Paystack, Chippers, Wave in Senegal. These were examples that were able to kind of, it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. But for me, back then, I knew very well that the game changers on the continent would be innovation. Innovation because is creating a new value set that has not been seen before. It's a new game. It requires a playbook that is different from the usual playbook. And with this desire to constantly working with improving the entrepreneurship ecosystem, I remember being approached by a number of individuals that had thought about the idea of Catalytic Africa, and they proposed on how I could be involved. And I gave my honest opinion. I said, this is a fantastic project. It is a fantastic idea because what I'm seeing is very similar to what we're doing in trade finance, except that the stakeholders in this case are different, a lot more fragile, but they require additional support for its success.
Yeah.
So I essentially have volunteered to support in the drafting of the concept note. I worked on the concept note, and it's only after 3 years that I was approached again to actually lead the implementation of Catalytic Africa, which I was very thrilled to do it because I could see its impact. I could see how great it was. So, and that
was launched in 2021, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that into my involvement with ABAN as a Secretary General of a whole. And ABAN and what ABAN does has always been in my mind, but I actively started getting involved about 4 years ago.
So what actually are the main objectives of Catalytic Africa?
So number one, Catalytic Africa, what I would like the audience to remember today is that Catalytic Africa is a ecosystem approach to supporting startup emerging on the continent. What I mean by an ecosystem approach is that it involves all the key stakeholders driving the African startup ecosystem, which involve innovation hubs, accelerators, and other capacity builders that exist on the continent. It involves angel investors and angel network, and it involves the startup themselves. So our main objective is number one, to increase investment made by angel investors in African startup by de-risking or co-investing with those angel network in their startup. So we only invest once the local angel has actually invested in that startup. And it has been designed like that deliberately, because at that very early stage, the best support that you can get is actually from the angel investor. He understands the market in which you operate. He's able to put in his capital, and is also able to become the vote of confidence for other investors.
And it's a sort of reality check on the viability or, potential viability, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And number two, it was actually one of the other objectives is actually strengthening African angel networks and innovation hubs, right? Remember that angels, right? Individuals that are investing and that come together, they invest their own money. This is not an LP, they're not a VC company, or they're not managing anyone's fund. It's their own capital. And by doing Catalytic Africa is creating this spill-on effect that happens within the ecosystem, where you have angel network now connecting with innovation hubs, the innovation hub that are building this startup from a capacity building point of view. And there's a synergy that exists. The more synergy we have, the better outcome we can have in terms of the investability of those startups that emerge from that ecosystem. And of course, the last objective is to present reliable data about the ecosystem and impact reporting for all stakeholders involved. The innovation hub, the angel investors, the angel network, the LPs that are coming on board to support or to create a pool of capital available that would be used as a matching fund towards the investment made by angel network.
So do you support the startups with their corporate governance structures? Is that part of the mentorship, or how do you support them with their thinking about corporate governance?
Absolutely. So it's one of the key things that has come across, that have come up several times. So when we talk about the startup survival and how they're managing to navigate the local environment, the continental environment, and eventually the global environment, and corporate governance becomes really important. So there's a standard framework that has been developed that is used across the continent. That's the POEM framework. right?
Yeah,
That
you
touch
mentioned that. Yeah.
on different areas
Mm.
that should be looked at in order for a startup to actually grow in a very sustainable manner.
Mhm.
And to also consider elements such as corporate governance that doesn't seem so important at that early stage, but that is in fact very important and can only be understood later on
Yeah.
when you're about to
Yeah.
raise additional
Yes.
money.
Yes. Yeah.
So absolutely, our Angel Network, because they receive training from ABAN and other institutions on how to support startups. Corporate governance is one of the most important elements that is being transferred to the startup. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's quite important that it's appropriate corporate governance, right? Which is not too much for a startup. I mean, it can't be just overwhelming. It's got to be the correct corporate governance, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, one key element that is very important at that level is that how do we create a framework that complies to the international standard, but that is also very easy for a startup to comply to by taking into account the local context.
Yes, yeah,
so
that's not overkill.
Important.
Yeah.
That's very important. As you all know, the startup founders are overwhelmed with data that has been requested from different parties. Sometimes it can be overwhelming for them. And we want to make sure that these individuals have ventured into creating value on the continent are given tools that could be easily used, but applicable and respected or even understood elsewhere.
Yeah. So have you thought, or do you already do any crowdfunding to supplement the angel investing? Because I could imagine there would be a lot of interest all over the world in actually putting, various people putting relatively small amounts of money that could be funneled into some of these projects which are emerging through your network.
Yeah. That of course requires a different expertise.
Yeah.
Our sort of crowdfunding that we'll probably do, I will frame it in a way of discussing or exchanging, collaborating with DFIs that are willing to support African startup or African startup ecosystem, and how they can come with big ticket size and put in the pool, such as Catalytic Africa, that will now be channeled our individual network. So as far as crowdfunding is concerned, the traditional crowdfunding as we know it to be, we can collaborate with existing crowdfunding bodies that exist out there. But I can also reassure you that what we're good at is angel investing, and we want to stick to that and only collaborate with those that are specialized in crowdfunding. And of course, it's very important source of capital as well. As much as angel investing is important, crowdfunding is equally important.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean instead of. I just meant that some of it is so interesting what you're doing. These companies, which are your investee companies for the angel investors, that they become of interest perhaps across a spectrum of possible crowdfunding sources as extra capital. I was just thinking whether you'd looked at that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. These startups that are beneficiaries from angel investment, they always seek for other sources of fundings, right? And crowdfunding is definitely one of the sources that they're tapping into. And apart from crowdfunding, there's also grants that are constantly given by DFIs to support specific sectors growth on the continent. Oh, absolutely.
So what do you think are the main sectors of, obviously you've already explained a range of them, but is it mainly digitalized businesses you think are the most interesting, or what do you think are the most interesting over the next couple of years in terms of possible investee companies for angels?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key components that that are of interest to angel investors are the understanding of digital component in accelerating companies' growth, which is very important. And you must understand that angel investors, they're very much interested in companies that can have exponential growth.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That is usually found in companies that have a heavy or that has a digital-centric approach to delivering value, right? And so you're seeing more and more angels focusing on digital anything. So it could be fintech, it could be agri-tech, it could be clean technology, it could be anything technology.
Yeah, or it may be perhaps injecting digitalization into a more traditional business and creating the growth through that. Yeah.
Exactly. This is exactly what is happening, you know, and we have seen its impact so far. And you must also note that financial technology has been one of the leading sector, both in terms of amount of capital attracted from VC companies, from angel investors. But over the past 2 years, we have emerging sectors that are also attracting significant amount of capital, such as clean technology, agri-tech, digital trade. And this sector more and more are being showcased and attracting significant amount of capital. So I see that over the next year, even though fintech is still leading in the scene of potential sector that exists, I suspect or I expect other sector to emerge and for us to have a much more holistic kind of a market where we have different sectors that are actively attracting capital, and actually we're also observing interesting exits that will eventually occur.
Yeah. Yes, that's always a great success story when there's a good exit, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. So, absolutely.
I'm always so impressed when I look at the statistics for female entrepreneurship in Africa. I mean, it's actually way ahead of places like Europe. And right. You've already talked about the, you know, how I think 13% of, for one particular angel investor of the startups were women-led startups. But I just wondered if you could talk a bit more about the role of gender diversity and the approaches that you're taking to the whole platform that you're working on and creating.
Right. So we have always had this posture that when it comes to encouraging and supporting and involving women in angel investing, it has to be a very deliberate move, especially as far as ABAN is concerned. So out of the 64 angel network that exists on the continent in more than 34 African countries, I can count up to 12 angel networks that has been founded by women, and another 30 that involves women, where women are active angel networks. And what we have seen so far is that for us, for ABAN, making sure that these women that actively created a network and that are actively involved in the other networks that were created by men, they needed a very specific kind of tailored support. And ABAN has been working year on to create those kind of tailored support that are geared towards supporting women and even sharing, making sure that we create a platform where these women that are driving those angel network and angel investment do have a platform to discuss about some of the challenges that they face and some of the potential solutions that we can come up with and drive and move forward. And we also have been deliberate in supporting startup under Catalytic Africa. You will notice that out of the portfolio that we have under Catalytic Africa, that consists of about 16, I think today we actually closed the transaction today. So he's going up to 16 transactions that have benefited from Catalytic Africa. We have approximately 9 women founders. And if we look at the details of these investment, you have more than 102 women that have participated in these deals. So we have been extremely deliberate. And moving forward, what we're seeing is that next year, we have been working on this for the past 1.5 years. Next year, we will be launching a catalytic women pool. What does that mean? We're going to create a fund, a matching fund that will specifically match any investment that is invested in a women-led startup. So if our angel network invests in a women-led startup, we'll be able to double the investment or triple the investment. So these are the deliberate moves that we're taking in order to continue in celebrating and encouraging and inspiring other aspiring women out there who want to get involved in angel investing, because the impact, the involvement is as important as the male counterpart, and in fact, even more so than ever today.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's extremely inspiring. That's so exciting. We'll look forward to more events when we can talk about that in the future, Nadila. So one other thing I wanted to ask you was, you are obviously doing so much great work in Africa. Do you get involved in the policy and regulatory aspects of this? And do you collaborate with governments and regulatory bodies and give feedback and suggest changes and so on? Is that a sort of two-way dialogue at the moment?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you cannot do angel investing without involving policymakers on the continent. Yes. So, and in fact, that's one of our strategic plan, and has been to shaping institutional policies, right? Developing positioning papers on angel investing on the continent as an economic development tool for government. So it's very important that we see angel investing as a development economic tool. Why is that so? Because when you look at angel investing, angel investors' investment on the continent, they are the first risk taker. So almost 80% of the investment will go south, but they're willing to take the risk nevertheless, which other banks would not, or other kind of funders would not take such risk. Yeah. So, and having these people now, angel investors, investing in these new ideas, these startups they do have on average between 2 and 6 employees or people working with them. Now, if you do the math, if we're able to invest in 1,000 startups in a year, right, we already have more than 5,000 employment that has been created. So this is how we have to see it as an economic development tool. Now, in terms of our involvement, policies, and making sure we have been communicating this to all the policymakers that we engage with, even it being continental-wide or regional-wide or country-wide. So if we look at the regional-wide, for example, angel investing in many African countries is not regulated, right? And you need specific laws and specific contracts to actually secure both the angel investor and the startup. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if I take, for example, the Francophone Africa, that can be put into an umbrella of the same legal framework as OHADA, which is an harmonized legal framework that governs 17 African countries, Central Africa. So up until 2 years ago, there was no legal template to secure angel investment into startup. So what ABAN has done is to work with or partner with a local and international legal firm to actually develop a set of legal instruments to facilitate investment in OHADA countries. And because of that work that was done, we were able to draw the attention of the Secretary General of the OHADA, who was very intrigued and very impressed by what we have done, because what we have done was creating a legal space for individuals in 17 African countries to actually invest in an angel and legal framework that will actually secure the interests.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So this is just one of the examples in which we get involved. But apart from that, because of the spread of our angel investors across the continent, you will see that in Tunisia, the emergence of the Startup Act, in fact, which was the first Startup Act emerging on the continent, was supported by a number of angel investors that are part of ABAN. You'll see the same in Nigeria, that is ongoing. You see the same in Ghana. You see the same in Cameroon, that is also working in establishing a Startup Act. So an ABAN is at the forefront of exchanging with government entities and policymakers in making sure that they understand the importance of actually leveraging on angel investors as a capital source for startup on the continent.
Yes, yes. And that suite of documents you mentioned, is that available generally? Is it on your website?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, these documents are available on our website. And next month, we will be releasing version 2.
Amazing. Wow, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I have quite a few questions from the audience. Let me go through a few of these. So does ABAN help facilitate acquisitions? I suppose that's part of an exit, an acquisition. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we have not made it public. You have exclusivity to this information that I'm going to share with you today. And one of the gaps we have noticed as ABAN in the ecosystem of angel investing is, the question is, when angel investor invests, and so what? What happens to the 400 million that has been invested by angel investor on the continent? At the end of the day, angel investor wants to exit. So we have recently partnered with Zytec, which is a portfolio management company that has been set up to actually manage portfolio companies that are owned by angel investors to facilitate exit. So for example, whoever asked the question, if you are a startup and that you're looking for a portfolio manager, please get in touch with us, because as a startup, what you'll benefit from is, number one, we talked about corporate governance earlier on, to be able to do a reporting that is compliant, that is a world standard, well, applicable everywhere, whether you're in Africa or outside of Africa. Investors understand the same language, whether you're in New York or Hong Kong or Ghana or Nigeria, right? So you'll be able to have to be trained on how to put this documentation together, preparing you for exit. Now, if you are an investor asking this question, maybe it's the right time for you to consider onboarding a portfolio management company. There's no upfront fees. Of course, this initiative is being put forth by ABAN in partnership with Zytec to actually support our network angels and angel investors to the exit path, right? And it could be merger and acquisition or full exit.
Great. Okay. So here's another question. Flutterwave recently announced its plan for an IPO. Do you think this is a trend now for other startups?
On the continent, we do have to understand that in terms of exit or IPOs, IPOs are not very frequent on the continent, especially if you do rely on the infrastructure that exists on the continent. So Flutterwave having the opportunity to exit, of course, they had announced it even think about 1 year or 2 years ago, right? But of course, that was delayed because of pending challenges that they had. And they had always planned to announce an IPO to go public. And you also have to note that is a Delaware-based company that have been structured in such a way to raise additional capital. And we're talking about more than 200 million, right? Which is actually very significant. So for startups that are emerging on the continent that reach a certain level, yes, we do expect that they would be leveraging on a global platform to raise additional money, whether it be in IPOs in the US or anywhere else in the world. That's what will happen. And I just want to tell the audience today that things are moving on the continent. Value is being created. Startup will emerge. They will become big, right? And they will no longer just be African startup. They will be global startup.
Absolutely, because especially if they're
Right.
digitalized, yes, they've got room for
Exactly.
expansion, haven't they? Yes, yes, yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Here's another question. I don't think we have time for a lot more, but what's the benefit for investors outside of Africa to join a network like ABAN?
We have two angel network that I would like to highlight to answer this question. We have the Diaspora Angel Network, and we have Bridging Angel Network based in France, one in the UK and one based in France. And one of the biggest advantage of having the diaspora joining a network or creating their own network that are in turn connected to existing network on the continent is, number one, to have access to a pipeline of viable startup. And number two, to have existing investors that are locally based, that are investing in those startups with experience. And this, in a turn, de-risk the diaspora investment. Because if you're in the UK and you want to invest in Nigeria, if you don't know how Nigeria function, the chances are that you're going to lose your investment. However, if you're a UK-based network and you want to invest in Nigeria, you can be able to leverage on the existence of Lagos Angel Network based in Lagos and Rising Tide also based in Nigeria. The same apply for Kenya, Ghana, Cameroon. So it's a very important advantage, and for the diaspora also to consider leveraging on existing framework that already exists on the continent to actually push the capital at work. And also, it's not only about capital. We're talking here about mentorship-driven capital. Yes. Your expertise, where you are, is very relevant, right? Is very relevant for the startup, is also relevant for the angel investors actively involved already. Because if you're bringing capital, you must have seen something that perhaps we're not seeing. And we'll be happy to kind of exchange with you to understand where you stand and sharing that knowledge, essentially.
So what's the best way? You know, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this must be very interested and think, what's the next step? How can I find out more and engage a bit with this? What would you suggest, Nadila?
Yeah, we can put you in contact directly with existing network in the diaspora. You can email us at secretary@ABANangels.org. You can send us an email. You can connect with us through Twitter, LinkedIn. We're going to respond and we'll be able to connect you with existing network. Now, if you want to set up your own network, we can also support you in the process of establishing your own network. And also, in addition to that, we're also making sure that those that are establishing network do understand what it takes. So we have made available some training for you to attend, which is pretty much very light. Introduction to angel investment on the continent. And you can have access to those tools to pretty much understand what is happening.
Wow, well, that's just a fantastic overview. Thank you so much. There's more questions I'm afraid we didn't get to, but perhaps another time. So Fadila, thank you so much. I mean, the time has just flown and you've just got so much to share. It's a whole world, I think, that we're learning about here. Thank you so much. And I hope we will do another event because there's just so much that can be discussed and shared regarding this huge space you're in. And it's very, very exciting to hear what you're doing on the continent and with so many Commonwealth countries there. So I hope everybody who joined took away some very valuable insights from Fadila's experience and all her great sharing. And if you're interested in joining ABAN, learning more about investment opportunities in the African ecosystem, we will make sure that the email address and so on that Fadila's just mentioned is shared with the recording of this webinar, and we'll also send it to you directly. So finally, after thanking Fadila so much for joining us, we'd be very grateful if everybody who's joined the webinar could please fill in the survey of how they found the webinar. We've linked the form in the chat box below. So once you click the link, please scan the QR code and you'll be able to use it. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. So bye, Fadila. Thank you. And
Bye-bye, Julia.
everybody.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.